Alright, this is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, we'll be comparing the H330, which is a pure press design, and actually this is the lowest cost South Korean made vertical hopper style juicer. This is a pure press juicer that has their traditional juicing screen. You can compare this to the very popular NAMA J2. And if you want a full comparison between this machine and the J2, link down below to that. That being said, while this is a lower cost, I would call it entry model, literally $100 less than the mid-range Hurom H70, which is my personal favorite juicer at this time. Link down below to my video on 10 reasons why this machine is my favorite. This is a mid-range, but this is a different design. This is a easy, clean design, so no longer does it have that traditional juicing screen that Hurom invented over 20 years ago now when they invented the first vertical auger juicer. Of course, they did not have hoppers back then. So this technology, literally the main juicing technology, has not really changed with the standard pure press style machine. The main benefit of the pure press style machine, they tell you, is that it makes a more pulp-free juice, right? And I have ways to get this machine to make a pulp-free juice for, very, very easily, actually. That being said, this machine is $100 less. But now the big downside of this machine, like other machines out there that use the same juicing screen technology, is that you need to use a cleaning brush to sit there and scrub that stainless steel screen clean when you're done juicing. This takes me 4 to 5 minutes total to clean one of these machines. For some people, you guys are all busy in your lives, and the last thing you want to do when you're done and you're happy about making your juice so you can get more fruits and vegetables, especially the leafy greens in you, is sit there and scrub your juicer. That's one of the main reasons why I prefer the Hurom H70, because literally I just spray this off with high pressure water, right? And in 60 seconds, this machine is even clean. I'd even take the smaller baby version of this, link down below to that, to my travel video where I cleaned the baby version of this in a hotel room that had very poor water pressure without any issues, without any scrubbing, and basically without even a scrub brush. And in this episode, like I have been doing in many of my other episodes, right, I compare the screenless design machines or the pure press line to, standard juicing screen design, and I show the superiority in the juicing technology. One of the things I want you guys to understand is Hurom has invested a lot of money in their R&D department, right? They send thousands of pounds of carrots, apples, and other produce items through the juicers in their R&D department, make small tweaks and changes to their machines to basically improve upon, earlier models of the machine. So the Easy Clean design is their latest design, and in my testing, I have found it to be make more yield and actually easier to clean than the standard juicing screens, right? And if you guys look at the Hurom Korea website, that's hurom.co.kr, they feature the Easy Clean Design juicers on their website. That's what they're focusing on selling to South Koreans, right? Unfortunately, in the U.S., as Americans, we're still stuck on the juicing screen because this is the technology that most people are used to, and most people don't want to change. Whereas I would believe that people in Korea are more likely to gravitate to and catch on and go with the latest technology. That is an improvement that makes juicing easier because it's easier to clean, and even will give you guys more bang for your buck because now you're going to make more yield, which means you're going to be saving more money because you have to buy less produce to make more juice. And of course, the other benefit of the Easy Clean design, and this is proven by science, that most Americans are not eating enough fiber, right? I agree, but when you are juicing fruits and vegetables, you are removing a portion of the fiber that comes out where the pulp comes out, right? This is the insoluble fiber that you basically blow open cell walls. Now the nutrients are more bioavailable because they're in a liquid form, right? But you're getting rid of most of the insoluble fiber, although you are keeping the soluble fiber. But the benefit with the easy clean machines is that this will also put some small amounts of the insoluble fiber in there, increasing the amount of fiber you're getting in your diet. And fiber has been correlated with having less disease and leading a healthier, longer life. So that's the basics, basically pure press versus easy clean. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, first off, I want to say is that, a lot of the machines on the market, Hurom makes for other brands. I'm not going to mention any brand names, but basically Hurom is the largest manufacturer of the hopper style juicers in the world. They've sold millions of units over the many years. They've been in business in South Korea for over 50 years now. They literally invented the first vertical auger juicer that I way back sold in the day, the Hurom H100, and also or equivalent would be the Omega 330, right? In addition, they are also credited for having the world's first hopper juicer, which I personally didn't like too much. You can see my videos, look up the Hurom H-AI, which is the first hopper machine. Terrible implementation, but I'm glad to say now they have gotten the hopper design basically to the paramount, and now it works very, very well, provided you pre-cut some of the produce items, especially things like celery, ginger, and some leafy greens that have fiber stalks. Now, the other thing I will say is that Hurom also brings to the table their full 15-year warranty on both these machines. So think about it. When I'm making this video, it's 2026. So at 15 years of 2026, that means your warranty runs out in 2041. So literally, if you guys buy one of these machines today, you will not have to make another juicer purchase till 2041 when your juicer warranty runs out, because provided you don't damage the machine, these machines, both motor and all the parts, will be covered under warranty. I guess what I want to do next is we're just going to go ahead and do a teardown on these machines so I could show you guys the differences and their similarities so you could better understand how they each work and, more importantly, which one may be best for you. But before we do the teardown, I want to show you guys who I am and why I create videos to this day and why I started my company, DiscountJuicers.com, over 25 years ago now. My name is John Cole. I started my company, Discount Juicers, in 1998, actually, to get you guys the lowest price on the machines, because I saw the major health benefit that I got by juicing, and I was, a little bit dismayed at the prices of juicers. So I found a way I could basically buy juicers direct from the manufacturer, cut out the middleman, keep my margins low, and then sell you guys juicers at the lowest price, right? These days my model has changed, and now I work directly with manufacturers, getting you guys promotion and coupon codes so you guys get the lowest negotiated price that you don't have to go out and hunt and find, because of my power that I have with all the different manufacturers out there. In addition, besides just getting you guys the lowest price, what's really important to me is making sure and ensuring you have the best information to make the most informed decision about your juicer purchase. It is quite unfortunate to me that there are a lot of influencers out there promoting juicers, right? And they are only promoting one brand of juicer. They'll never have a different brand of juicer in their episodes because they don't go out and spend cash, their own money, on different juicers to compare it to the machines that they get for free from the manufacturers, right? Meanwhile, I have agreements with all the major manufacturers out there. Of course, the manufacturers send me free machines. That being said, sometimes I also will pay money out of my pocket when manufacturers don't send me the machines so that I can test them for not only you guys, but also for me, because I'm a juicer for life. I drink juice on a regular and everyday basis, and I've seen the difference it can make, and I know the difference it can make for you as well. So if I've helped you out by creating all these different videos where I compare two different juicers, or three sometimes, side by side, unbox juicers, share with you guys my expertise, right? Then I would encourage you guys to help me out by using my coupon code. The coupon code you could use on the H330 or the H70 to save a minimum of 10% off is slow. We'll throw up right there because these are both slow juicers that run at very low, slow speeds. So they're going to prevent the high-speed oxidation that those high-speed juicers inflate your juice with oxygen and lower the nutrition. Of course, when you guys use that promotion code SLOW, not only will you guys get the lowest price, and my coupon in most cases is combinable with current promotions, so you could basically double dip and get a sale promotion plus my coupon code in some instances, right? And you'll save the lowest price, and also you guys will be helping me out so I can continue to spend my time to create these videos, pay my energy, light bill, buy my food, which has only been going up, and pay my amazing video editor so I could make these videos. So thank you so much who will use that code to save the most money and help me out so I can continue my mission to educate the world about the power of juicers and other appliances that allow you to process your fruits and vegetables in the best ways possible to maintain the highest level of nutrition to benefit your health the most. All right, so on with this comparison, let's go ahead and dive deep. I think first, actually, I want to do a size test. So we're just going to go ahead and get out a standard tape measure. I know some of you guys have countertops, and then your cabinets come down pretty low. So, one of the things about the Hurom H330 is that it is rather high. It's 18 inches high. I think between most countertops and cabinets, it's 16 inches. That being said, if we go over to the Hurom H70, this one is just about maybe 17 1/4 inches. So this one's a little bit lower than this guy. And then if we look at the footprint over on the Hurom H330, it's about 9 inches from spout to spout, and from front to back, we're also at about 8.5 inches. Meanwhile, the Hurom H70 has a much smaller footprint, and the footprint from front to back is about only 7 inches, and from side to side, it's about 6 inches. So this is going to take less real estate on your counter. Also, another thing I want to point out is where the juice and the pulp comes out. Much like some of the other juicers out there, right, on the Hurom H330, the juice comes out one side and the pulp comes out the exact opposite side. Depending on your kitchen setup, this may work for a lot of you guys have a lot of counter width space, right? I'm not the biggest fan of this because it takes a lot of counter width space. I personally like the outlet ports on the Hurom H70 where the juice comes out in the front and the pulp comes out on the side. So this takes a lot less kind of area, plus this machine is a bit smaller as well. So I guess with that, let's go ahead and take these top sets off the machines so we can compare them side by side. All right, guys, so the main parts of a juicer are, number one, you have the hopper part, and number two, you have the juicing bowl and the juicing apparatus. So the first thing is we're gonna go ahead and take off the hoppers. On the H330, I do like the dual handles that you can just basically grab and take apart. The dual handles can be very important should you kind of get the machine clogged by not pre-cutting produce properly. Then you could kind of get a better grip on it to basically take it apart. Whereas on the Hurom H70, you have just a handle on the top and you kind of got to hold the bottom to kind of hold it stable to take it apart, right? And this is probably where the main difference lies, is the hopper size. The hopper size on the Hurom H70 is 1.8 liters. The lid goes basically almost suicide. It is non-removable. And to open this up, there's actually a little trigger. So you just press this and it pops up, which I do like that a lot. And on the Hurom H330, in my opinion, the lid is a bit more difficult to use. You basically have this little button you need to press. While you're pressing it down, you basically pull up and then the hopper will come up. So the hopper doesn't go back as suicide. It kind of comes up at a nice angle, so it won't really fall back on you. The good thing about this is that the lid can come off for easier cleaning. That being said, when we look in each of these hoppers, they're kind of a similar shape, kind of like a circle with like a one line on one side of the circle, so it's cut off a little bit. At the bottom of each of the hoppers, you'll see a processing blade at the bottom. This processing blade basically spins around to pre-cut and feed into the juicer at a slow and moderate rate the produce. The other thing I really want you guys to be aware of is the hole on the bottom. So on the earlier versions of hopper juicers, such as the H330, maybe we'll spin around that way so you can see this opening. It's just kind of like a plain cutout. It doesn't look anything special. It's a little more narrow on this side Gets a bit more wide on this side, but then if you look at the bottom of the H70, look at that. That's a unique shape. I don't know how they came up with that shape. You know, it's kind of narrow on both edges. It gets wider in the middle. It has a notch out of it. And there's like these little notches on the top. Also, if you could look inside the bowl, it's like stepped, right? As the produce goes into the auger here, it's a drop down step. Whereas if you look on the top of this, it basically doesn't have a step. It's basically just kind of a ledge to kind of help it funnel in, right? So it's like these little components, design features, are critical in my opinion, because, you know, when these machines first came out, they're just like, oh, let's just put a hole down there. Everything will drop in a slow and moderate rate and work pretty good, right? But over time, Hurom saw that when they could design the hole a different shape, right, they could really optimize and maybe even slow down the produce going in, right, so that it kind of gets ground up more and maybe even gets a higher yield. So, you know, it's like these little fine minutia details like nobody will tell you guys about online, but I found they make a huge difference. And this is, once again, part of the design criteria. I would say on these processing blades look very similar, so I can't say that they're much different. But what I can say is the hopper difference. So if you guys notice the Hurom H70 hopper compared to the H330 hopper, right? The Hurom H330 hopper is basically pretty much like a cylinder, whereas if you look at the Hurom H70 hopper, it's like a little bit more funneled in like this. Because it gets more wider at the base, I find that this hopper design, which also has a tighter weave on these little grates here, which also helps kind of get things in because there's less contact points for things to stick, whereas this one has less contact points all the way around. This helps things kind of drop into the bottom of the hopper and get hit by the processing blade and actually get funneled into the juicer. So when I'm done juicing, one of the things I hate the most is when you fill up the hopper and then there's so much different particles left inside the hopper that actually didn't go into the juicer, right? This will mean you're leaving juice on the table, because if it's not going through the juicer, it's just being produce that's stuck in the hopper and never got juiced, right? It's basically juice you're not getting. So that's why I like the H70. I find has been more optimally designed and is one of the best hopper designs on the market at this time to actually get things in to the juicer to get juice. And just showing you guys the top, you know, of course, this is a much smaller. Both of these have a hole that you can feed produce into. Also, this is a little more raked to kind of drop things in. I mean, this has a smaller rake on it, but the hole, for all practical purposes, are a similar shape. And then you can see on the bottom of this machine and this machine, you know, one of the things I don't like about the H330, once again, in older design, is that there are some nooks and crannies in here, right? Because this is kind of like hollow and goes up, pulp can, not going to say will, but can get stuck in here, which will make cleaning more difficult because now you have to like basically scrub out this area or spray it out. Whereas on the bottom of the H70 hopper, there's none of those little nooks and crannies that you will need to clean. So this streamlines your cleaning and makes it easier, all right? So those are the hoppers. Next up, this is where the main difference lies with these two machines, as well as other machines, you know, that use a similar juicing style screen that you may have seen online. So the Hurom H330, more traditional design. Once again, the design came out over 20 years ago now. And it has basically a few components. It has a standard wiping blade that spins around with a silicone wipers that basically wipe down the screen to kind of keep it clean and keep the juice flowing out. This runs, I think, at like 17 RPM, a fraction of the RPM that the auger runs at, which in this case is 50 RPM. And then you just have the standard juicing auger, which is running around in the juicing screen. So what happens is the produce drops in between the auger and the juicing screen. This auger is running around, and as the produce is kind of works its way down the auger, right, it gets basically crushed and squeezed. The cell walls get blown open, and then the juice comes out the little screen holes. Small particle pulp may also get stuck in the screen holes as well, and then the pulp comes out this little hole in the bottom. And then in turn, the pulp goes through this little orange pulp flap in the bottom, and then the pulp ejects out this area of the bowl, which then you can basically blow open, and then you can get in here and easily to clean. On the other side, basically, as the juice comes out of the machine, it basically goes through the bowl and then kind of comes out the spout, which you can close to kind of do mixing in the juicer, which I do not recommend. While this will put less oxygen into your juice, in some cases, compared to leaving it open, it also, in my testing, will lower your yield because your juicer is trying to basically extract juice while it's swimming in juice. All right. So yeah, that's the main components. You got, once again, the auger, the juicing screen that you will need to use that brush and scrub when you're done, and the wiping blade. Meanwhile, let's go to the Hurom H70. You have basically the juicing bowl here. That's basically one piece, and then you have the auger. And you're like, John, there's no juicing screen. How does this work? And that's what I told myself, you know, when I first saw this. But how does this thing work? There's no juicing screen. It like boggled my mind. And then when I kind of looked at it more and understood it, I'm like, wow, this is totally ingenious, right? And I will tell you guys, I wasn't the biggest fan of this kind of design when it originally came out. It was definitely a little bit different than it is today. But over the years, Hurom has improved the technology to make it even, in my opinion, far superior to the juicing screen technology, because two reasons. Number one, easier to clean, and in most cases, in my testing, it actually will get a higher yield. So how this works with just a single auger is that this is, while it's a single auger, it's two pieces. So you could just take this apart, and you can see there's little slits in here. And when we put these slits through this slits, basically there's some even smaller slits in between. So there, for each little finger going up, right? And you put this in, there's two slits. So there's two slits here, two slits here, two slits here, two slits all the way around. So as this machine is running, produce is going down between the bowl and the auger. The auger is crunching it up, blowing open cell walls, compressing the pulp, grinding it up. Juice is released, and then the juice falls inward instead of, in this case, it falls outward. It falls inward inside to this hollow part of the auger, right? And then falls down and out of the machine, right? So now, and then the pulp keeps running down the face and then runs out down here. And once again, you can open this up, and the pulp has to basically hit this pulp flap, which is silicone, which basically provides some kind of back pressure, so it doesn't allow the pulp out unless it's kind of more dry. And you could open this up to clean it. And then the juice, of course, would then come out over on this side where you have this spout cap. On this machine, you also have a level gauge. If you keep this closed, you want to open up the juice spout when your level gauge is full. And this is another part to clean that I'm not the biggest fan of, because you could take off the level gauge to kind of get in there and clean it when you're done. So yeah, that's how the Easy Clean system works. And of course, this Easy Clean system takes me 60 seconds to clean. If you guys want to see me do that, I've done that in multiple videos. But I'll link down below to the original unboxing where I time it and show the 60-minute cleaning cycle. Of course, over on this side with all these parts and scrubbing the screen out and the other parts out, it will take you a good 4 to 5 minutes, right? So that's the main difference between these, the cleaning time. Of course, this machine likely to put less pulp in the juice, but that really depends on what specifically you're juicing. And in my testing, of course, the Screenless now has, you know, met and even exceeded the yield of the screen juicer. And of course, this is also what they've been promoting primarily in South Korea, all right? So with that, let's go ahead and reassemble both machines. Reassembly is more complex on the H330 because there are more parts, although it's not too difficult. So first, you're going to take the wiping blade, take the juicing screen, just shove those into each other so that the wiping blade can spin around freely. You're going to then see there's like these little notches, a large notch and a small notch. You want to line up these notches with the notches in the bowl, the small notch and the large knots. So basically this kind of just drops in place, and then you finally take the auger. You can drop the auger in. You want to make sure it pushes down and the auger is basically flush with the juicing screen. I turn it a little bit to just ensure that it's fully seated down. Once that's fully seated down, you can take the hopper, and then you basically, there's some little arrows you could line up in the front. Like here's an arrow here, and you line it up with an arrow, well, the unlock and the unlock, the lock and the unlock here. But basically, even easier, I just basically offset these two handles and just click them together so that this handle is one whole unit, and then you just pick up the whole unit and drop it on the motor base, okay? And then on the Hurom H70, very simple, very easy. Once again, augers 2 pieces, just push them together, drop this in, spin it around, make sure it's fully seated. And once again, you're gonna go ahead and take the hopper, and there's a lock and unlock on the bowl that you're gonna line up with the line right here. You're gonna line it up with the unlock, and then it'll drop down, and then you line this up with a lock, and then when you're done, this whole back piece will be aligned, right? It needs to line up like that. If it's not aligned, right, if you put this on backwards, which it won't even let you, so it's like kind of idiot proof, it won't even let you do that. It won't turn on, and you won't be able to assemble it properly. So I do like that they have that built in, and then you basically just drop this on, and you're all ready and set to juice. The next thing I want to do is we're going to go ahead and do a sound or decibel test to see how loud each of these juices are when running empty. All right, so we got my handy dandy decibel meter. First, we're going to go ahead and check the Hurom H330, the loudness. So basically we're ranging from 58 decibels to 62 decibels on the electronic meter there. Let's go ahead and turn that off, and now let's go ahead and check out the Hurom H70. Alright, so my well-used Hurom H70 is basically testing at its 64 to 74 decibels, you know, especially when empty. And this has been well used about 1.5 years now. You know, it may make a bit more noise. So when it's, you know, and the other thing is you shouldn't be running it empty. When you are juicing in it, like the produce will kind of act as lubrication to kind of quiet down all the plastic clanking and noises you will be hearing. Nonetheless, both these are considered slow juicers. This one running at 50 RPM, this one running at 60 RPM. So these are quite quiet, and you can even juice when, you know, your family is sleeping, so you don't wake them up in the morning. You could even juice if you have paper-thin apartment walls, because it's not going to disturb your neighbors, because it is so quiet as compared to a high-speed juicer or even a high-speed blender. All right, so next up, we're going to go ahead and juice even amounts of produce in both machines. So let's get this set up for juicing and do a produce weigh-in. All right, guys, so we're all set up and ready to juice. Let's first go ahead and do a produce weigh-in. We got some organic carrots today and 1 organic apple. Looks like we got 1270.6, 1270.6. Looks like we have a fair fight, so let's get juicing. Alright guys, so what we're going to do to be fair is we're going to go ahead and load up both these hoppers with as much produce as we could fit, and then I'm going to start the stopwatch, turn both machines on, let them run, and then I'll add produce as the machines are going so we can see how long each juicer takes to juice. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these 2 machines open. First up, we're just going to go ahead and drop in the apples into the bottom of the juicer. Next up, we're just going to go ahead and then pour in as many carrots as will fit into the juicer. Now, both machines have a fill line that you should not fill past. I am overfilled it a little bit, but we should be all right. I cannot recommend that you overfill it. This may cause problems with your machine. So don't do this at home. And then let's go ahead and pour carrots into the Hurom H70. And of course, the Hurom H70 hopper is a little bit smaller, so we won't be able to fit as many carrots into the machine. You can see we have a few extra carrots than we have from the H330. All right, guys, so let's get started juicing. Gonna hit start and make sure it's going, and we're gonna press start on both machines in 1, 2, 3. All right, both machines are off to the races. As machines are going, I'm going to just go ahead and drop in the rest of the carrots to keep the juice flowing. You guys can see both machines are kicking out juice pretty much at a fair, even clip. And what we're going to do to save you guys time is we're going to go ahead and speed this part of the video up and come back at you when one of these machines is finished juicing. Alright guys, so the Hurom H330 finished first at about 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The hopper's empty, juice is barely dripping out, and the pulp has pretty much stopped flowing out. This is when you know the machine is done and you can turn it off. So I guess we'll officially turn it off at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Meanwhile, the Hurom H70 is still juicing away. So we're going to come back at you when the H70 is finished juicing. Alright guys, so the Hurom H70 has finished juicing. I think pretty much the pulp has stopped flowing. The juice is barely dripping. We're going to stop that at 5 minutes. So it took about 1.5 minutes longer to juice than the Hurom H330, right? That being said, while it did take longer to juice, I do want to remind you guys that during the juicing process, right, you don't need to sit here and watch. You're not sitting there and pushing each carrot in like you had to do with many juicers of the past, right? You could be away, you know, changing your baby's diaper, doing, you know, preparing your garden for planting, talking on the phone, answering a few more emails, getting your hair ready for work, making your other breakfast items, feeding your children, or whatever, right? That is the beauty of any hopper juicer. That being said, let's go ahead and turn off the Hurom H70. I always like to tip up each machine to see if we get any last bits of juice out before shutting that spout cap. Same thing on the Hurom H330. Basically get the few more drips out, close that spout cap. Now what we're going to do is bring these juices front and center so you guys can see for yourselves which one of these machines actually made more juice. Alright guys, let's go ahead and do a close-up on the yields. Once again, on that older technology, that screen-based technology that many of you guys still use to this day, looks like we got about a little bit over 500 milliliters of juice. I don't know, it's hard to call what, maybe 505, and then we have a little foam layer if you look very closely on top. And if we go over to the Hurom H70, I mean, basically it's about 100 milliliters more. We're basically up to 600 milliliters, maybe 605 milliliters, once again with a little foam layer on top. Show you guys the foam layers from the top. I mean, it looks like a very similar amount of foam, in my opinion. Maybe the H330 has a little bit more bubbles that are a little bigger bubbles than the smaller bubbles on the H70, but that's really hard to call. But yeah, so you can see literally 100 more milliliters in the new Easy Clean technology. Alright, so you guys just saw the Hurom H70 made about 100 milliliters more of juice. This works out to be about 20% more juice, right? Once again, this machine is newer technology, and in my testing, performs better. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. You're thinking, John, if this machine puts more pulp in the juice, and that could have artificially inflated the yield on this juice. And you're totally right. So that's why I will strain the juices now, basically using the same exact container to catch the juice, as well as the same exact sieve to put the juice through to ensure that we are comparing apples to apples, right? Let's go ahead and first pour the H70 juice through the sieve. And we are catching some amount of pulp, especially when we get to the bottom. There is a fair bit of pulp being caught by the sieve. Next up, let's go ahead and pour the H330 juice through the sieve to see how much pulp is caught. Once again, guys, we are also catching some pulp in the sieve as well. And it actually looks to be almost like a very similar amount, maybe a little bit more in the H70 than the H330. I don't like to use a spoon because then I could maybe push more pulp through one than the other. So what I like to do is I like to just basically simply shake it, and only through gravity, kind of like, you know, get the pulp to stay in the strainer, and then kind of get the juice to basically fall through. So it's kind of, I'm trying to get like the fairest comparison here. Then next, let's go ahead and do that on the H330 pulp. H330 pulp seems to be a bit more fine. All right, so we got that. And now, so I could show you guys the differences here in the amount of pulp. Definitely the pulp in the H70 now is maybe approximately twice as much, but let's find out for sure. All right, so first we're gonna go ahead and check the pulp in the H70. And it looks like we got a total of 46.5 grams of pulp that was in the sieve. Next, let's go ahead and check the pulp from the H330. 46 to 19. So maybe basically like a little bit over twice the amount of pulp put in the juice from the Hurom H70. Once again, that can easily be removed by using a sieve, you know, to run the, you know, juice through the sieve basically before it goes into your collection cup to basically get it to be even, or actually still have less pulp than the H30, because you need to use a sieve on the H330, because the H330 also put about half the amount of pulp in the juice as well. All right. So now once we did sieve out the juice, now let's go ahead and do another yield comparison. All right, for ease of use, we're just going to go ahead and pour the juice back into our original containers that have been sieved out. All right, and now let's look at the final yield after straining. All right, guys, so now the after straining result. So on the Hurom H330, the result didn't change too much. You know, we had about 505 or so, and now it looks like we just have about 500. So that didn't really remove a lot of material. And then over on the H70, that we did have more juice in the first place, you know, we did remove some material, maybe 30 milliliters of juice in pulp, but that still leaves us with 575 milliliters of juice, whereas over on the H330, we're left with only 500 milliliters of juice. So, you know, even after straining, right, we still made more juice in the Hurom H70. All right, guys, so this is what I've been trying to show you guys, because I mean, in my tests, because I basically only use screenless machines now in my home, I've run so much produce through screen style juicers in the past, especially during the whole pandemic. You know, I'm so glad I now have the screenless, because I see the difference in, you know, making more juice than the screen design. Plus, I mean, the more juice is nice. It's maybe a little bit more efficient. But the big thing for me is now the cleaning at the end of the process. You know, when I juice, I don't just juice 600 milliliters. I might juice, you know, 4 to 5 quarts of juice. And when I'm done juicing for like an hour at a time, and although both these machines have a 30-minute run time, according to the user manual, I've run both these machines, you know, around an hour without issue in many instances. All right, guys, next up, I'm going to go ahead and taste test the juice to see if I could taste any discernible difference. You know, it's unlikely, but we'll see what happens. So we're going to go ahead and try the H70 juice first. It tastes just like carrot juice and apple. All right, next up, H330 juice. I mean, me personally, I can't tell the difference. These are both slow, cold press juices that are a lot more nutritious than a high-speed juicer would be. And you know, I mean, I strained the juice because I wanted to do it for this comparison, but I'm just going to go ahead and eat the pulp off camera later, because that came out of the strainer. It is so good for us. I would encourage you guys, unless you just don't like the texture of the pulp that the H70 puts in your juice, is to just drink it. Because as I said, most Americans are deficient in fiber, and getting a little bit of extra insoluble fiber from the carrots, in my opinion, is only a good thing, because most nutrition has already been unlocked, and adding a little bit of fiber back in there is only a good thing, in my opinion. All right. So yeah, that's the juicing process. Although it did take, you know, a minute and a half longer in the Hurom H70, it also made, before straining, 20% more yield, and probably maybe like 15% or so more yield even after straining, if that bothers you. Now, the next thing I want to compare is the pulps. You know, I barely shook these down as they came out. This is the pulp out of the H70, and this is the pulp out of the H330. Now these are in a little bit different containers. This one's a smoke container, but we're just gonna go ahead and hold up the tops for you guys so you guys can see the visual difference. But if you guys just look at the texture difference, right? Basically, the Hurom H70 pulp is more compacted. It's like more compressed down. As the pulp came out of this one, I did not push it down. I just like shook it down. But you could see this is a lot more loose. So, you know, that's where the yield comes in. As the machine is grinding up the produce, right, and pressing and kicking it out, it kind of compresses a little bit more, squeezes a little bit harder, right? And what is the result? The result is actually more juice. So actually that's quite interesting. You know, the pulp is different. Now, of course, the last thing that's different, and I'm not going to show cleaning in this episode, but what I do want to show you guys is what you will need to clean. So on the Hurom H70, you could take off the hopper. The hopper is fairly clean there. A few bits of carrots on the bottom side. And then what you have to clean on the inside is the two-piece auger. When I pull that auger out, look guys, this thing is almost already clean. There's no pulp stuck in between the little tines as you pull this apart, right? There's a little bit of pulp in there, but not much at all. This is going to be very simple and easy to rinse off. Once again, it takes me about 60 seconds. And then you have a little bit of pulp left stuck in the juicing bowl that you will need to clean out. So once again, right, that's the beauty of the easy clean design. It makes more yield and it takes you, you know, 4 to 5 times less time to clean. Once again, 60 seconds, spraying this down. I've never used soap on my H70. If you guys want to see the results of not using soap on the H70 after 1 year, link down below to that video because I show the buildup that occurred on my machine after 1 year, but that does not affect performance at all. It's simply a visual thing. And yeah, so like to this date, I still have not used soap on this machine. There's a little bit more buildup than there was after a year, but it's still working great. Even this 1.5 year old machine is beating the brand new machine. All right, so now over on the Hurom H330, what will you need to clean? We could go ahead and take off the hopper. And if we open up the hopper, once again in the hopper, you know, there's a few things left in there, right? It's not quite as empty as a Hurom H70. Once again, a little bit of particles in there, just not quite as efficient as the H70. Once again, on the bottom part of the hopper, you guys can see there's some nooks and crannies with pulp stuck. There's not this much pulp on the underside of the H70. Once again, it's a bit more efficient machine. And on the H330, you guys could see, you know, there's pulp here on the top that actually didn't get funneled in. The H70 is a bit more efficient in this respect also. And then when we pull out the auger, you guys can see the auger once again is pretty clean. A little bit of pulp at the top of the auger. What I will let you guys know is you guys see the color of the auger. It was black before this juicing episode. Now it has like a magenta kind of sheen to it, right? Don't freak out if this happens to your auger. The auger isn't leaching, it isn't bleaching, it isn't discoloring. You know, what has actually happened is the carotenoid pigments, that's what makes the carrot juice orange, right? Is basically kind of coating the top of the auger like on a surface level. And then when we look at it through the light, it looks kind of magenta. So all you need to do to get this off is basically use the scrub brush here and put a little bit of dish soap on there and scrub it off, and it'll easily come off. If you just rinse it under water, you will not get these carotenoid stains off. All right, so then next up, coming out of the H330, another part to clean, right? If this was the H70, would be done because there's just that two-piece auger. Now we have the wiping blade to clean, which I hate on the wiping blade. Underneath the wiping blade, there's these little gears that you can see a lot of pulp are stuck underneath those gears. Of course, inside the screen, a lot of pulp stuck inside there. And what I hate the most when juicing the carrots with the traditional screen is, if you guys could see, basically this juicer through the little holes is basically pushing out this fine pulp literally through the holes, right? And this is basically ground in pulp that are coming out through the holes that are stuck. So even if you spray this off, the ground in pulp will not come out. You will need to literally sit there with a brush and scrub all this out. Not only the outside bottom, all the way around the top, and then I even scrub down the inside top and the inside bottom to basically get all this pulp out. When you're done cleaning, if you could still see pulp clogged in the holes, it'll dry inside there, and then over time your juicer will be less effective, right? This is something you simply don't have to worry about with the H70 now, or any of the easy clean machines, because there's no stupid screen holes. I hate these screen holes, you know. And hey, if you already have a juicer with a screen holes and you don't mind the cleaning, keep it. You know, the performance is very similar. Yes, this one's a bit better, and you don't mind the cleaning. That's the biggest thing, right? I hate the cleaning of this now after using this one, and maybe you guys like the cleaning on this and you don't want to spend the extra money to upgrade, and that's completely fine, right? I like the latest technology. I don't usually get the latest technology in a cell phone, but I always get the latest technology in juicing because that's what I'm into. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is look at the bottom of this bowl. At the bottom of this bowl, there's a bunch of pulp you will also need to clean out as well, right? So, yeah, that's really, you know, although this one did take a minute and a half less to juice, right? It did make less yield, but as you guys can see, there's a lot more parts to clean, right? So, and why would you want to clean all these extra parts for what's the benefit, right? Maybe it took a little bit less time to juice. It made less yield. Maybe it put less pulp in the juice, but that's nothing a $1.25 sieve from the Dollar Tree couldn't remove out of the H70 juice to basically make it to have a similar amount of pulp as the Hurom H330 right there. All right, guys, so after all that, and you guys saw the full comparison between the Hurom H70 and the Hurom H30, which one do you like more, right? Honestly, tell me. I mean, I don't know what you guys like more. I know what I like more, right? And I'm going to have to declare the winner of this episode, the Hurom H70. Not only did it perform better, made 20% more juice before straining, maybe 15% after straining, but more important for me than just a little bit more yield, which is nice, is the easier cleaning, right? I've spent a long time to wash carrots, set up this video, film this video, get this video edited for you guys. And then now I have 60 seconds of cleaning, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm really not looking forward to cleaning on this machine, right? And, you know, that's the thing I really want to tell you guys. Like, if you stop juicing because of the process, like you got to push produce in, you don't like that process of pushing each single item in, right? That's where the hopper juicers make juicing much easier. All hopper juicers do this, right? Some hoppers, of course, work better than other hoppers, but the thing that no other juicer does except the Easy Clean and maybe the Tri-Best Slow Star has the Easy Clean design that literally you can spray off and it saves you time cleaning. And if this hindrance of the cleaning basically stops you in your tracks from even getting out your juicer, and now you're not juicing, even though you know it's good for you, you felt great when you have done a lot of juicing in the past, right? That means one of these machines that has the Easy Clean design is for you so that you could get juicing more and get those benefits of the fruits and vegetables, all the carotenoids in carrots that are uptaken into your bloodstream faster and in higher levels than just eating the carrots raw, as proven by science, right? I don't want you guys to miss out and lose out on your health benefits from the fruits and vegetables because you're not juicing because the process is too hard, right? Make the processing as easy as possible so that you have the least resistance, so that you will end up juicing more and benefiting your health more. That's why, once again, I love the Hurom H70. It's my favorite juicer at this time. Link down below to my video on that. And if you guys want to get the lowest price on the H70 or the H330 that you guys saw in this episode, make sure you guys use the coupon code SLOW at Hurom.com. That'll save you guys a minimum of 10% off the Hurom and give you guys the lowest publicly available price. Also, of course, Hurom will share with me a small part of the sale so I can continue to make these education videos, buy my produce, pay my light bill, pay my amazing video editor so I can put these episodes out and show you guys the truth about juicers, because unfortunately nobody else is doing it like me. I have the most videos on juicers with basically testing all the different major brands, running produce through different brands at the same time, and you guys can see the results and then make the best informed decision for you. So I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you guys did and want me to do more comparisons in the future, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people that you are connected with that are doing juice fast, maybe juice fast forums that aren't aware of the latest technology and how it beats the old technology, not only in yield, but also in cleaning time. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I'll be coming out every 5 to 7 days. You never knew what new juicers or technology like vacuum blenders I'll be unboxing, or juicers I'll be comparing against each other so you guys could find the right one, or even just dropping my juicing knowledge bombs with you that you're not going to hear anywhere else from somebody that has been juicing now for the last 31 years. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 900 episodes at this time on this channel, dedicated to you guys all about the different juicers and other appliances to process your fruits and vegetables in the best ways possible to retain the most nutrition. And I'll put links down below to my favorite videos I've made in the past with our Hurom H330, the all-new, low-price Hurom leader, better than the J2 machine because it works basically the same and it's like $140 less at this time. And of course, my favorite, the Hurom H70. Links down below to all the videos so you guys can see how these machines work in detail. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.